Now, still on the sale of national assets, earlier in the week, I spoke to Dr. David Kuranga, who's the managing director of a New York-based political and economic consultancy, Kuranga and Associates. Take a listen now to our discussion. Dr. Kuranga, thank you very much for joining us on the program. First, we have seen your publication on the proposed sale of the national assets now of this country, even though the government has not taken a decision yet. But just give us your thoughts on the proposal itself.
In general, there are some assets that could be liquidated, or there could be some public-private partnership. But in particular, the oil assets and many of the assets in general, the market conditions to sell assets or privatize assets is very poor. The economy is in a recession, and oil prices are very low. So when we're talking about oil assets or any assets in general, the market conditions are not optimal. With the currency crisis, with the current recession, this is not the time to sell and get the best price. So no, it would be malpractice for me to advise any government in recession to try to liquidate its assets, that was the best time to liquidate its assets. There are some exceptions to that, where there are certain assets that the government may hold that are not functioning properly, that a private-public partnership would be very beneficial. But for the most part, when you're in recession, and particularly in a sector like the oil industry that is in a downturn, this is not the time. You sell on the uptick, not on the downtick, and that's common sense. And so someone suggesting that the government should be selling oil assets in particular at this time, that's just treacherous. That's a non-starter. It's not even to discuss that. It's unbelievable that that's even being suggested.
But are you surprised at all that I mean, it's even been suggested, as you said, because and then you look at the people who are making these suggestions. I mean, they are quite high-profile people in society. We're talking about high-profile politicians like the president of the Senate of this country. The richest man on the continent, for instance, Aliko Dangote, has also made that suggestion. We've also had the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, who is the current emir of Kano, also suggesting that the assets should be sold. And then you take a look at those people. Some people would say, well, because of their position in society and in the country, that they just might not be wrong.
No, that is the worst idea I've heard. Don't forget, both the Emir and Mr. Dangote are members of an asset management group, the largest asset management group right here in New York, BlackRock. They have I think called Black Rhino Group, which is a private equity asset management group that is taking over assets. So they are connected to one of the largest global asset management firms in the world, which has more money than most countries in the world, including Nigeria. They are institutional investors in there. They are on the board of this company, and they are looking to buy up assets all over Africa. They are speaking on behalf of their company that they are on the board of, and the interest of their company, not on the interest of the Nigerian public. So I don't fault them for trying to capitalize on a particular scenario based on the positions that they have. It's the people in the public sector that are supposed to be public servants that are suggesting these things that is just completely unbelievable. I mean, unless either they don't understand what the situation is, or they do, and they've been compromised. But it is not in public interest to liquidate oil assets at this time. The market is not optimal for that. The second thing is the relationship of the government with oil companies right now is poor. Almost every single oil company that Nigeria does business with has defrauded the country in some way or another. They've either not paid taxes, they've lied about the amount of oil that they have taken, and or the times in which they lifted the oil has been adjusted and manipulated to take advantage of lower prices as opposed to the higher prices that they actually took it that they shouldn't have been paying. So through the audits and through the various checks, we've seen that there are ongoing disputes, litigation right now with almost every single oil operator. All of them have been chased after for tax fraud and other types of improprieties on their part. So who exactly are these assets supposed to be sold off to? These people who have been defrauding the country, I mean, are you kidding me right now? The government doesn't even have a good relationship with any of them, yet alone to suggest that it should continue on. So this is a non-starter right now. This is completely, it's not something that is going to happen in this current climate, and it's a non-starter. The government is far from this.
Now, let me ask you, because for you, it's like you're hinging your position now on the fact that this is just not the right time to sell those assets, because whether we like it or not, the value of those assets are down at the moment. So, are you suggesting that Nigeria should probably wait for when the values of these assets will appreciate before selling them? Because some people have also suggested that even if the values of these assets were right, that it just wouldn't make much sense, especially when you're talking about national security now and the interest of the country, for Nigeria to sell off these assets just because it is going through a recession.
No, I mean, it could function. There could be a public-private partnership in the oil sector, but currently the relationship between the government and the private sector operators in the oil sector is very poor. So not only does the economic conditions in the oil sector have to improve, the relationship between the government and the private sector oil operators have to improve. So there's two things that have to happen, and right now neither are optimal. And until they are, you can't even begin to this discussion of selling off assets. They have to improve the rest. These companies aren't even paying the taxes that they should be paying. They're lying about how much oil they're taking. I mean, there's several major lawsuits ongoing right now as we speak that haven't been resolved. Until those lawsuits are resolved, until the relationship between the private sector operators has improved to one where the government is able to monitor what they're doing and have some kind of reliable oversight of them, then you can engage in discussions of selling off assets. Because when you sell off assets, you have less oversight, you have less ability to check what's going on. And even with the current oversight and the current involvement of the government right now, the private operators are defrauding them massively. So it's a non-starter. It's complete in that sector. It is a non-starter. The fact that any public official is almost treason that they're suggesting this. Because either they're completely naive and ignorant about what's going on, which I doubt, or they have been compromised by those in the private sector who are pushing for this. And like I said, these people, these business leaders who are speaking, and the Emir and what have you, they are directly involved in a major asset management corporation. I think the Black Rhino Group, and they are looking to buy up assets all over Africa, including these. But they're going to have to wait if they want to get involved in these. And they're also going to have to demonstrate that they are trustworthy partners. And no private sector operator has done that. And so the time for that in the Nigerian context is not going to be anytime soon. The markets have to improve, and the relationships between these operators have to improve before you can even move down that particular step.
Do you think Nigeria is in a panic mode? Because the idea of even discussing this sale of national assets would seem to suggest that we are panicky, so to speak, in this country over this issue of recession. Is that the sense you get?
Yes, I do. I don't know if necessarily panic. I just think that the elites in Nigerian society, both in the public sector and private sector, they realize that for years, too long, they have been getting a free ride. If you look at all the communities that elites in Nigeria live, Ikoyi, Victoria Island, Lekki, Maitama in Abuja, there's so much security around those neighborhoods. There's police security, there's military security, there's naval security. If there wasn't, these communities where the elites in Nigeria live would be completely overrun by the population. I mean, they'd be getting robbed every day. They couldn't even live there. They couldn't even exist. So their security assets for the country, the police, the military, the Navy, have been deployed to protect the elite class in Nigeria, the business class and the political class. However, they are not required, like other countries, to pay taxes to the Nigerian nation that reflects the amount of public resources that's been deployed to help them. In other countries, elites pay taxes. In fact, Nigerian elite, business leaders in Nigeria who own property and have assets outside. There's a Nigerian who owns a $50 million apartment right here in Manhattan, New York City. I believe the same person, he owns like 10 different, a compound with 10 different palaces on it in Ikoyi. He pays more taxes to the U.S. government and to the state of New York here than he is paying in taxes for his homes and palaces in Nigeria. And that's where he does business. Tell me that makes sense, that a Nigerian elite is paying more taxes to the U.S. government, to the British crown, than they are paying to the Nigerian government where they do business and where they make most of their money. That's ridiculous. If that wasn't the case, if the elites in Nigeria who own property, who do business, were paying a fair share of what they should be paying to the Nigerian government, we wouldn't even be in recession right now. Our reserves would not be down right now. We would have plenty of money to inject capital into the economy, to inject capital into infrastructure, and to run the nation in a proper manner. They know this. They know this. They have to. They know that they're not required to pay what they are actually paying in other countries. And the hammer is going to eventually fall on them. So they're trying to, postulate these other solutions other than the real solution, which is you people who are in the elite class in this country need to come out and pay what you owe to this country. That's the solution. Pay the fair share of what you owe. Why is it that Nigerian elites are owning 10, 15 houses in the country and they don't pay the level of taxes that they pay on one house in London or one house in New York or somewhere, or Dubai? That's ridiculous. It should end. And I've been calling for it for years, even before the election. And the government is currently so-called the APC, the all progressive. But I don't see anything progressive about this administration at this time. I don't see anything progressive about the policies that they have been pushing. The solution is obvious. I mean, the elites in Nigeria need to pay it's about 5 million people. They need to pay their fair share. And I outlined a list of, I have a paper out, I outlined a list of policies that they could easily do to target the elite sector. The tax revenue that they're bringing in now is more than it was because they're taking it more seriously, but it's not enough to fund the shortfalls. If they were requiring the elites to pay what they should be paying, we would be okay. And there would be no recession, there would be no currency crisis. All this is nonsensical. They're allowing this to happen because the elites are refusing to pay what they owe.
And on that note, let me just ask you what, in your opinion now, how you think Nigeria should be dealing with this recession. How do you think the country should handle this so that it is able to come out of it as fast as possible?
The currency crisis is one of the biggest things. Keeping the currency stable is very important, and allowing that to slip and not being able to keep that at a stable rate is a problem. So I argue that they should have, from the first 100 days, implemented a progressive taxation regime. Now, they argue that a lot of people in Nigeria don't pay taxes. I don't think that's the biggest problem, because a lot of people in Nigeria don't have enough money to pay taxes. It's these elite people who really should be paying. It's about 5 to 6 million people. There are Nigerians and there are expatriates who are living in Nigeria who should be targeted for this. And if you look, they can't hide. They have big homes, some of them, many of them. They have fleets of cars, they have jets, they have boats. You see them all over the place. They can't hide. They can't hide what they have. They can't hide in where they live. We all know who they are. And it's very easy for the FIRS, the Federal Tax Agency, to find these people. It's only 5 million, where they live, and require them to pay an increasing amount based on the level of assets that they have. By doing this, they will inject several trillion into the national coffers, trillion naira into the national coffers, which will close the budget gap that the legislators are talking about. They're talking about this budget gap that they have to borrow for, which may be true, but if you're going to borrow, they're doing euro bonds and borrowing a foreign currency, which is fine. You have to increase revenue to pay back borrowing. Borrowing is based on how much revenue that you're bringing in. So you're taking credit, but if you're going to take credit, then you have to increase your revenue. You have to increase the amount of money that you're bringing in. So they can fix the currency crisis by borrowing foreign exchange. But in order to pay back that foreign exchange at some point in time, they have to increase the revenue that the government is bringing in. And the key way to do that is progressively, by targeting the elites in the country who need to pay more. And it's not unfair to require the elites in Nigeria to pay more. Remember, they use a disproportionate amount of Nigeria's security resources. The communities that they live in, Ikoyi, Victoria Island, Maitama, Lekki, they have more security than every other community in Nigeria. And that security is paid for by the public. This police, the military, the Navy, that's paid for by the people. So those people who live there need to pay more money. It's fair, and they're not. So for the past 10, 15 years, they've just been ripping the country off. And that has to end. If you want to continue on a stable framework, you have to stop that. It's common sense. If here, I pay taxes here. In Nigeria, I should be forced to pay the same taxes. I shouldn't have to. I mean, it's just common sense. I pay tremendous taxes here in New York, and I should be required to pay the same thing in Nigeria. I'm not saying this to say that it's other people. It would be me too, and I gladly would be paying what I'm suggesting that elites in Nigeria should pay, because I pay it here in New York. So why shouldn't I be required to pay it when I'm in Nigeria?
That was Dr. David Kuranga speaking to me earlier in the week. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll be discussing something else. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.